Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This week we are switching it up just a little bit and covering season 1. At least as far as I know, there might be more. We'll talk about it. Of the new Peacock television series created by Ian McCullough titled Teacup. Yeah, that was released, again, on Peacock, October 10th, 2024, and released over the span of 4 weeks, culminating in 2 episodes as a Halloween night finale. And yeah, it was great. We're going to go ahead and cover the entire season in one go. And to help us with that, because it's a lot of stuff going on, we brought in a good friend of ours, also a loyal listener, feedbacker, wonderful, who's been part of this podcast in her own way for a while. Now in here, in bigger, better version, Alma, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone.
We're happy to have you with us, Alma.
Oh, thank you.
There's such a buzz about this show. I think. I wish more people would watch it. I hope it gets a season 2. I just think there's so much potential for what they can do with it. But, you know, since it's Peacock, it does have a chance. Sometimes I get irritated because Netflix decides to pull the plug the most inopportune time.
Mm-hmm.
Pake has gone on several rants about it from multiple shows. So, yeah. Since it's Peacock, I'm hoping that we're going to get a season 2. At least a season 2.
Yeah. Well, especially after the way that this one ended.
Yeah.
Very set up for we definitely need more.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we'll get started the way we always do. I only have a couple of production notes. Basically, it was filmed in Atlanta, Georgia. What is it about Atlanta, Georgia and things that are filmed there? Because I feel like it's just a thing with people I know and people in this Zoom room that, Walking Dead. Also.
Mm-hmm. Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Stranger Things. Yeah.
Georgia's just a big... I mean, I'm sure the, what is the logical money answer for that? There's, an economic answer to that question as far as, Georgia has a lot of great, taxes and systems in place for filming. Incentives and stuff. But other than that, yeah, it's just... I know Atlanta, because you can, you've got cityscape stuff, but then right on the outside is a lot of this more rural and foresty areas that, shows like this and The Walking Dead can make good use of. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was inspired, though, by the 1988 novel Stinger by Robert R. McCammon. What I understand, the characters are different than the characters that were in the book. However... there are elements of the story that are the same. So, having not read the book, I am tempted to do it if it's available in audio form.
Yeah,
I'm tempted.
I don't know how similar it will be to the book versus if they're just based on loosely and they took some ideas. Because again, I haven't read the book. I had never heard of it until then, but I did look it up, and at least the cover that I saw has some kind of... Hopefully this isn't a spoiler for the show, but who knows? Some kind of giant underground monster. So it was I don't...
Wow.
So I don't know if they're going that route at some point, or if... Yeah, who knows?
Well, the episodes each week, most of them were 35 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I think episode 5 might have gone past the 50-something minute mark. I think it was about an hour.
Yeah, it's very cool, though, because to get you in, I felt like I had to watch the first 2 episodes. Like, that's what got me in. It wasn't the first episode. I was intrigued, but by the end of the second episode, I was like, yep, I want to know what happens to this family.
Yes.
Yeah,
So.
same instance. So I'm glad that they released them 2 at a time, because it was that same thing when I decided to check it out. Just the first 2 episodes out that first week. And yeah, it was like the first episode, I was like, I have no idea what's going on. This is weird, but I kind of like it. It's 30-something minutes. I'll check out the second episode. It's there. And then, yeah, it's the end of the second episode with Claire's death, and then all of these things kind of building off of that then you're like, okay, now I'm hooked, and we've got to continue on and see what's going on here.
Yeah.
Because then I think that's when, yeah, because that's really where McNabb, like, shows up mostly. Like, when we see him at the very end of the first one, but then that's where his, like, interaction and stuff, so things really start falling into place.
Yeah. So, Pake, why don't you give us a synopsis on this series?
All right. I spent seconds coming up with this one, and by coming up, I mean copy and pasting from IMDb, working so hard doing so, of course, as I always do. But yeah, trapped on a farm in rural Georgia, a group of neighbors must put aside their differences and unite in the face of a mysterious and deadly threat.
Okay.
Which, that could be the synopsis to, like, 700 different movies and shows.
Oh, that's pretty bare.
Yeah.
Swap out farm in rural Georgia with gas station,
mall,
shopping mall. Like, there's so many different other places.
Yeah.
Honestly, that it could be Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Yep, it could be that. So, yeah, so we have a guest on, which means we follow a different format. We are not going through our usual character analysis, but we're going to be doing a point system. And Alma, since you are our guest, we always let our guests go first.
And by point system, she means like Buffalo, where if we like what you have to say about the show, you get a point. Whoever has the best things to say about it wins the game. No.
No, but that's a good idea, Pake.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, top 3 points about the show format.
So do I get all 3 points or just
We'll rotate. So
rotate.
You do your first one, we'll rotate. I have like 5 full points that I can go to, and plus so many other notes. I have too many notes, but you know, we'll get through everything. So if you got extra stuff afterwards, we'll get through it all.
Well, how about I start off with the messiness of messiness between relationships. Like, we find out that James is having an affair with Ruben's wife, and their neighbors, and I don't know. I kind of like that, like, real life messiness in the midst of this horrible thing that nobody knows what's going on. That intrigued me a little bit more. It added a little bit more depth to the story for me. I don't know about you guys, but the messiness just kind of sucked me in a little bit more than I was already hooked.
Yeah.
So
I like the complexity of, does Maggie know? And if she does, how much does she know? And does she know who it is? And does Ruben know? Like, because the families are friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the messiness. And you know, that was one of the things that saddened me when Ruben did find out, because he overheard a conversation between James and Maggie, and, you know, Maggie just blurted it all out.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a note about that where she's like, does Ruben know? And it's like, well, he does now. Way to go.
And I was sad. You know, I really like that actor. The guy that plays Ruben was in Twilight. And I remember, you know, Twilight was what, 12 years ago-ish, or 13?
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that now.
Well, I think the last one, was in 2011, I think. So so I recognized him, and I was like, I really like this actor. He shows a lot of his emotions, and he showed those emotions, I thought, pretty well. I felt really sad for him, really bad. I was like, oh, he has a cheating wife.
And everyone knows but him. Like, that's kind of like the thing is the other three, the two people in the affair, plus Maggie, but Ruben's in the dark until he finds this out. And they're in this constricted situation where they can't, I mean, where is he going to go to get away?
Yeah.
Like, really get away. He can't escape from or run away from the situation.
Yeah. So it could seem like some kind of just unnecessary, messy drama, but because of the situation they're in, it adds to the tension.
Yeah.
Because then you have these two very like masculine kind of like, I want to be the house, the head of the house, man of the house kind of personalities in Ruben and James, and now they've got this between themselves, and they have no choice but to be trapped in the same location with each other and just let it stew.
Yeah. It definitely stews, and the pot gets stirred even more. Like, there's so much that goes on. Yeah, I think that's a great first point, because I think that dynamic really, while not like front and center for the entire show, it's like this bubbling thing that's going on, and it affects relationships, especially James and Maggie. And when Maggie figures out who it is, it makes it, even more intense.
Yeah, I had that as, so I'll just to follow up with it, because I had that as one of my backup points, which I titled "Your Cheating Heart." But yeah,
I'm surprised that they didn't use that music for an episode title, right?
But yeah, so this way I can just rip through some of my notes. But yeah, so just to kind of cover some of those thoughts is, that James and Valeria are cheating each other. And then the big thing is, it happens pretty early on, is like James really fucked up by telling Valeria this Meryl in the oven story. Because we find out then that it was very much a like secret that like James and Maggie had decided to never tell anybody that was between them. And so that's how Maggie found out that it was Valeria, because that's something that is super close to the chest. And so when they're getting Arlo ready to put him in the bath and stuff after finding him, and he's all scratched and scraped up and dirty, and Maggie makes reference to this oven story, or Valeria does, and then just Maggie's face. You can tell immediately, like, that's when the light bulb like turned on in her head. She's like, got it. I just put two and two together.
Another big betrayal, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Maggie comes off as so cold, like, at the beginning of the show and throughout the show, really. And
yeah, it's a big through line for her.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, as the story comes out, you get to see her in these situations, and you start to understand why she's the way she is.
Yeah. And then there was a lot of like really great lines that were in this show because of that situation, that I had to write down some of them just because they made me go, oh. James and Maggie says, I love you, because it wouldn't hurt so much if you didn't, James. That was a rough one. Ruben saying, we'll get through this, both of us. And I was like, I have a feeling he's not referring just to the trap. And then, let's see, I didn't trust you before we found out one of us could be a killer, so how am I supposed to trust you now?
Love that line.
Yes.
Love that line.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was good. And then, we get the Ruben and James going out together. And I immediately knew, I was like, well, what kind of tension is this going to hold now that they're just by themselves on this adventure? And they do pretty well. You can see them jabbing at each other, and there's like little moments where they're close to the line where you're like, one of them's not going to be that brash and do something stupid.
I was worried.
But you wonder, you're like, it's there. But then it ends up that, they get to the Navarro farm and find the trap tree, as I call it. And then Ruben's like sucked into that. And James saves him, but even after saving him, what he gets for it is a punch to the face. I mean, again, not for saving him, it's because of the other stuff, but it's like that tension finally bubbles over. But I think at the end, or near the end, not really at the end, James doesn't come out of this very happy at the end, but
No.
at least for a moment they kind of patch things up. I said, they have their very intense but well-needed conversation with each other there in the bedroom. And then they are finally working together again, on the same page, bonding in the act of drowning their daughter together.
Man.
Yeah.
I loved it when Maggie said to him, "You don't want to go out with the husband of the woman you're fucking?" Like, so brashly and so almost badass. And she's got zero fucks to give at all at that point. And I really liked that a lot. I think when you go through the process of things that disappoint or upset you, it's like a grieving process where you have to get upset, you have to let it out, and then you just get angry after. And so that's just another piece of it. And I feel like she's reached the anger part. And now she's able to, let it out a little bit more. And I feel for her. I feel like she's going through a lot.
Yeah. Especially because they're right there in her face and nobody can get away. Nobody can leave. So you're stuck.
No.
Yeah. It's like, not only did I find out who you were cheating on me with, but now she's living in and sleeping in this house and I can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
Yep. So she's faced with it. Daily, like a punch in the head, like a punch in the face. Here you go. We're just gonna, we're gonna kick you while you're down and make you have to see her too. So my first point is actually Maggie, the character of Maggie, because I wasn't quite sure what to think about her at the beginning because I'm so used to Serena Joy from The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
I know she was on Dexter. I remember her character on Dexter, except that it's been a while since I watched it. And while she was intense on that show, the intensity she brings on here it's very much reminds me of Serena Joy. Like,
having to make the hard decisions, whether people agree with them or not, and like putting on the stone cold face of like,
exactly.
I don't even like it, but this is the way things are.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is what I have to do. And I feel like most of the time what we saw from her character, except for towards like the last 2 episodes, what we saw was this stone-faced person, this hard and cold person that James had even told Valeria about. Like, that she's so cold. What we also saw when she was with the animals and when she was with her kids, we got a different side of her. There was compassion and love in her eyes, and that facade dropped down because she connected with them, and you could tell that despite everything that was going on around her, you could tell the joy that she had from being around her kids. And as hard as she was working to try to save Ruben's horse, like, you could tell she really cares about the animals she's trying to help and trying to make things better. Seeing that part of her, it was really great because it added more dimension. Because at the beginning, you just know that something's going on. You can tell right from the beginning that her and James, something's happened. Before they really reveal it, you can tell there's a strained relationship there.
Yep.
Plus, his mother's living there. I mean,
his mother knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so here's Maggie living in this world where my mother-in-law is living with me and she has a health issue. And not only do I have to keep everything together in front of my kids, I've also got to keep things together in front of her. And even though she wasn't at fault with the affair, you know that as a woman in that situation, you have to think that she's like, how do I live up to or build myself up or not? What is this woman thinking of me? Is she looking at me like, well, it's your fault he had an affair? You know, because that's what goes through your head.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see her through the whole show really, like, she's the level-headed one. She makes decisions. She tries to focus on the kids and protect the kids, and I think she was the first one who really believed what Arlo was telling her.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, she listened to him and she saw him kind of go in and out of it, because you could kind of tell when he's going in and out of it. And I think, you know, she realized something was going on. And even if she didn't or wasn't 100% invested, I felt like she at least empathized and could at least think, well, it might not be what he says it is, but part of it might be true, and I need to figure out how to help my son. Like, what can I do to help my son?
Yeah.
Though at first I wasn't quite sure what I thought of her. As the show went on, I really was just like, I'm on Team Maggie, definitely.
Yeah.
She's tough. I like her. She's a very strong woman in a career that is not easy as a veterinarian. There's a lot of pressure that goes along with it. And to be like a large animal vet, it's not an easy job.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked her character a lot. So yeah, that is my first point.
Nice. All right. My first one that I'll go with, kind of a twofer in the way that it's two characters that become one, which is our boy Arlo, but then also the alien entity come to be known as Harbinger, and I just kind of combined them into one little character named Harlow.
I like Harlow. That's great.
Yeah. But yeah, we see early on in episode 1, Arlo wanders off into the woods after a baby goat, and nobody notices, which I'm like, that's probably normal out here. Like, that's honestly, like, the kid probably knows his way around for the most part, but just situation's a little different. And then while he's gone, that's when the Shanleys arrive with their horse that had that big freak out and hurt itself there. So then that's another reason nobody's really paying attention to Arlo. And that's when he comes across Carmen Navarro in the woods, and then we learn is Harbinger. That's Harbinger's original vessel, and Carmen was in a pretty rough shape, so Harbinger needed a new vessel, and chooses Arlo out there in the woods. It's just happenstance, like, well, I guess this will do. And then, you know, we just have him kind of missing after. It was an interesting kind of like little moment. We were like, oh my god, what just happened to this kid? And then they cut back to what's going on. Don and Claire's dog Duke had run off, and so they were out there looking for him, and then that's what brings everybody together on the farm. And then they want to start looking for Arlo, but then he just kind of comes back on his own. And people have been warned about this black dog, which I thought was going to be a much bigger deal in the show, and then it really wasn't. But
funny thing about that dog, he just he crossed the line and had to be dealt with.
Yeah. But yeah, so when Arlo comes back, he's, I mean, clearly different. There's this you learn with Harbinger is like, can infiltrate people's memories and thoughts, so he's learning things about people or whatever this. And so it had just been in Carmen, and so you get this weird moment of Arlo coming back still in like broken English, trying to like, what are the English words I need to piece together? And he's speaking in Spanish because it's Harbinger's been in Carmen's brain, and so he's like, I don't know what's going on, but trying to explain what's happening to people and only has a limited vocabulary. Like, he's quick and he's got to pick things up, but Harbinger's still trying to piece together how to exist as a human in some way. And then I just like, once that connection is made where Arlo, it's weird, this kid is like a willing host. He's like, once he knows what's going on, he's like, yeah, I'm cool with it. Like, that's fine. Harbinger just can live up there and do what he needs to do. I'm on board with this mission. I'm on board with this plan. And I thought it was really cool. Like, it was between episodes 2 and 3. There's a moment in episode 2 where Meryl is trying to calm Arlo down and talking to him, and he's asking, well, how do you know this? How do you know that? And she says, I'm your sister, and I know things, so you have to trust me. And then in episode 3, when Arlo is trying to explain Harbinger and what's going on to his sister, he says, I'm your brother, and now I'm the one who knows things. You need to listen to me. And I was like, that's great.
I love their connection. You can just tell that the two of them really rely on each other. I mean, if you're living at an isolated farm like that, I mean, siblings can be at each other's throats, or they can also love each other, and sometimes a mix of both, or everything all the time. Crazy.
Yeah. For sure.
I like the way that they wrote the two of them, Arlo and Meryl.
Yeah.
I like the way that it's written.
Yeah, and I like seeing Meryl especially, but even Maggie, as you mentioned, comes on board pretty quick of listening to and trusting the little child in the show. It's like, because if this podcast has taught us anything, that's usually a really good idea. So they follow with that, which is great. But yeah, just a lot of great moments. You mentioned him going back and forth in and out, and man, this kid, I had to look at Caleb Dolden, who played Arlo. New to me, never seen this kid before this show, but like, holy crap. His performances, where, switching back and forth between like scared little boy Arlo to this frantic warning entity of Harbinger, was fantastic. Like, just to see him like
the switch,
like you could see without him saying a word, just in his eyes, you're like, I know what character he's playing right now. And that's, for a young actor, I'm like, that's insane. That's incredible.
It's amazing. Like, I'm not sitting there wondering, okay, who is he? It's visible, like physically visible who he is at that time.
So I'm just like, I don't know who found this kid, but good job. He's great. But yeah, it's very frantic at first. I was like, I mean, he pulls a like knife, or I think it's like a little like Swiss Army knife or something out on his mom. I mean, it's Harbinger in that moment. It was like, he's not playing. He's like, I will cut a bitch to get this people saved. Like, I don't care. He's ready. Yeah. And then it's kind of in and out. It's a lot for him, but he's the one that says, we're trapped. The man in my head says we're trapped, and continues to go over that. We're trapped, hide or die, trapped, hide or die. And it seems really scary at first, but then through Arlo being this like very soft soul, he has a really good way of explaining things to where he's like, yeah, I'm possessed by an alien entity, but no, don't worry, he's a good guy. It's fine. And making it believable, Like,
that's what I liked, is the fact that he was able to have everyone pretty much trust what he was saying, even though he's a little young kid. Trusted him, and they went on board with keeping him safe. And that's what I liked that. I liked that. What's the other kid's name? The boy, Nicholas. And he was like, for sure. He's like, there's nobody getting past me. I liked that whole dynamic of the kids. Just, okay, we're going to protect this kid.
Alma, did you recognize the actor who plays Nicholas?
At first I was like, I know him from somewhere, but he's changed because he's grown up so much.
He has, yeah.
Yes, from Yellow Jackets.
Yes.
Yeah.
He played Javi. Yeah. It took me a minute to, I'm like, what? And then I read it somewhere, and I had to go back and actually look. And again, he's just grown up so much since we saw him just even last season.
He's killing his part too. I like how he has a little crush on Meryl, and he's probably has had that crush on her for a while because beautiful. Yeah. He seems a little bit awkward and kind of like a nerdy kind of boy. But I really like how he's playing that part.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of great acting and stuff in here. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I had any more on like Arlo, Harbinger. At least a little bit we get from him. We get the reveal out in the woods that Harbinger, is an alien entity. He says he fell from space. And it's like, okay, we're getting that kind of sci-fi. Cool. And then immediately he's just like, so we're going to take this poison and we're going to drink it, but just enough. And it's like, we're really putting some trust into whatever this is right now. But they do. They go along with it. And then when James and Ruben are over at the Navarros and you kind of see what happened there. And it's like, well, it was a significantly worse situation over there. But then the next episode, the big McNabb and Travis flashback episode, where you see like it was this harbinger and assassin situation had really kicked off and started there. And that was kind of the ground zero for everything that's happening now. But yeah, just seeing him being protected, which it was because thinking like, shouldn't he be able to, protect himself better? Because assassin is absolutely ruthless. But then he makes that little point. I was like, I guess it's sound reasoning. He says it's better for Harbinger to inhabit a kid because a kid is easier to protect than an adult. And he needs protection more than being the one putting himself in the line of fire.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But he's still trying to, while being protected and kind of being behind this wall of other people, still leading the charge and being like, here's what we need to do. Here's how we need to do it. You need to drink the perfect amount of this toxin to cross the low.
There's no
too much, die. Not enough, die. It's like dead, dead, or dead.
Measuring cup. There's no measuring cup at all. So how do you really know?
Yeah. And are we done with this point? Because that brings me to my...
Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
McNabb is my second.
Nice. You took... So your first 2 points were my backup ones, which is great. I love that. So they get done.
McNabb, because, when he first shows up, it's so mysterious. He has the mask and he's drawing this line and we know nothing. And then... Then he shows up again. Oh, but when he tells them to trust nobody, well, how are we supposed to trust you? You're looking all creepy with a mask.
Yeah. Trust no one, says the guy with the gas mask, the gun, and the whiteboard. Okay.
So I think McNabb is a pretty interesting and character. So I kind of at first was thrown off by that episode where they go back. His backup story. And at first I was like, okay, well, I want to know what's going on at the farm. What are we doing right now? But I feel like it was necessary for us to understand where he's coming from. So he seems like a villain at first, but is he? No, he's not. He's actually a good guy who we probably would think he was crazy, if we were at the bar hearing what he was having to say there, like, oh, this guy's crazy. But
well, I think that Ruben and James did think he was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone would think he was crazy.
Yeah, he was an actor that was great for me to see. It was kind of that, like,
he's
again,
in a bunch of things.
Like you said with, like, the kid that played Nicholas, being like, oh, Javi. See, for me, like, McNabb takes his mask off. And my immediate thing is like, I'm in Netflix world. I'm like, it's Turk from all the Netflix, like Marvel things from Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. I love him as Turk crossing over the Defender stuff. And he's also Officer Powell in Stranger Things, which he recurs through that and stuff too. So always love to see Rob Morgan. Yeah.
Okay, that's where I know him from because I'm
yeah.
There's so much to that Marvel world. I'm
absolutely
caught up. But from Stranger Things, because I'm a big Stranger Things fan. So that's where I know him from. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Bothering me for all this time.
There you go.
If I see him, I'm like, he is familiar, and I still don't know from what.
Too strange indeed. Shout out to my other podcast with Rima there, kind of alumni in a way in this, because with Rob Morgan there from Stranger Things, and then also Lieutenant Olsen, the first kind of assassin version that we see, the cop that shows up, is Bill Heck, who played Rendell Locke in Lock and Key, their father that had passed away, which I don't think that's a big surprise because you find that out in like the first episode, so it's not a huge spoiler.
Rob Morgan also played the prisoner, the guy in Smile who did survive the Smile virus, or that's whatever they call it. Yeah, he was the prisoner.
Interesting. But that's pretty much all I had for him. I feel like there's more to come from him they've kept him.
Yeah.
I don't know that because he knows more stuff that I think just hasn't come to play in the series.
Yeah. So see, I run through my notes real quick. Again, I said he was kind of a backup. Which is stuff that you covered. I can, but yeah, it's like he knew immediately who Harbinger was by, not necessarily by name of Harbinger, but like by essence. Like he sees Arlo and is like, "You're Harbinger." Like you're that person. Like doesn't call him Harbinger, but it's like, I know who you are. But then he crosses the line to get the jar from the kids, and then that's when he gets stabbed. I'm like, I'm still not sure why he would do that. Like, why does he say roll the jar to me? It's like, no, you should just let them cross over to you. I'm still not sure exactly what he was trying to do there.
Well, he didn't want them to die because he obviously they hadn't drank the stuff yet, so they would have died if they crossed over.
Yeah, but I wonder if he would have been like, well, Arlo or whatever is within him knows what you should do. So it's like, yeah, go ahead and drink some of it, and then come over here with me, and I'll get you guys out, and then we can come back for everybody else who's here.
Right.
So him just like running across the line to go after it, I was like, well, that was not a smart move. But I think he was very brash and impulsive. He, shooting Dawn and like just getting very, it's like, I have to take Arlo with me. I have to take him, and I have to like save this. It's like, if you want to save the world so bad, you really need to work on your people skills because they're not working together hand in hand right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was questioning a lot of like, how does he actually know so much? And it's just, and then we get that backstory of like what was his daughter that was inhabited by Harbinger, or at least a good visitor. Maybe not the same one, maybe not the Harbinger that we see here, but one of these. And he saw what happened to her, and so immediately like he goes down that rabbit hole in that tunnel of finding out all that's going on, and it is this like crazy, dark web chat room, like conspiracy theorists. But everything is actually true, which is crazy. Is like they have this like group of like hunters that have devoted themselves to helping people who are caught up in these trap scenarios, which is really interesting.
Some help. Some are helpers. I don't think they always are.
Yeah, but you don't know who is who.
No, it's very hard to tell.
Yeah, because I think that's like, it's like they try to find out who the assassin possessed people are, and then stop them before they hurt people and set up a trap, and they're kind of monitoring all these things. So it's this like task force that him and his friends like Olsen and stuff had devised. Yeah, it was really interesting, and then we see more of them at the end. So
yeah.
It was interesting. I think hopefully we'll get that world built out a little bit, but yeah, he was an interesting character. I thought, there's that point in like, was it the finale where, I mean, you just figure he's going to give up. He's about to just like cross the line, and then he remembers that necklace that he gave Travis that had the little bit of liquid from the whole situation with his daughter and stuff. And it was like, and that's where he kind of devises this plan with Ruben and everything, which we'll talk about more, I'm sure. But yeah.
Yeah. But that's it for McNabb.
Okay, that brings me to my point, and I want to talk about the assassin in general.
That was
perfect. But that's actually my next one too.
Excellent.
So that's great.
So we should have a great discussion.
I had my like Arlo Harbinger, so I was like, let's flip to the other side of it. So yeah, definitely.
So we learn from Arlo, thankfully, who's kind of our narrator, or I feel like he's the one that's just explaining things. They have him do the talking to explain all the different parts sometimes. So the assassin is trying to kill the Harbinger. That, is the bottom line.
Before Harbinger can be used as a key to flip some kind of switch that we still don't know what any of that is.
No.
And
we know where it might be. I call the tree that Ruben got entranced, I call it the sparkle tree because it looks like a tree and it's all like sparkly.
I call it rainbow tree.
That's great too. Pake, looking at your background right now, I feel like it's something that could be a Meow Wolf, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, looking at the big picture, it reminds me a little bit of Critters, the movie Critters, which we haven't covered on here yet. However, yeah, it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Or Terminator, where someone is sent to do something good and someone is sent to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that type of thing. Good versus evil. That sort of thing. The interesting thing with Assassin is he inhabits the bodies, but they don't always die. If he goes to another body, sometimes when he moves to a different body, he'll kill the person.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes he doesn't.
I think it's just a matter of if he has time to or not. It's because it seems
and the situation.
Sometimes he's panic switching to like try a new approach by the end. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he went into Olsen, Olsen shows up at the farm. I, right from the beginning, thought something was going on that wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, why are you in this truck? This seems a little off to me. But when he transferred to Ellen shot him right away after. Like, boom, gone. And I think that's because, well, I have to kill you.
Because you know too much.
You know where I am, like that I'm in Ellen. Like, he could have given it away.
Yeah.
And then Ellen gave it to Valeria, but Valeria didn't kill Ellen. Because we didn't see that transfer take place.
We didn't see that, yeah.
So we don't really know what the situation was. So Valeria goes to Nicholas,
mm-hmm.
and he inadvertently, I don't know, pushes her off across the line. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize they were so close.
I wouldn't say not inadvertently. It was very purposeful.
Yeah. He wanted to kill her.
Yeah. So he pushes her over the line and kills her, and then moves on with the idea because I think they were trying to get to the closest that they could to get to Arlo.
Yeah. It's like when Assassin and Valeria realized Nicholas is not letting anybody through to get to Arlo. Okay, then let me get into Nicholas. Maybe Nicholas can get through. And then has the plan, okay, Meryl's really the only one who's going in there with him. Mm-hmm. If I can get to Nicholas, I can get to Meryl.
Yep. And Meryl hit Nicholas on the head, but didn't kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It made me think, because we're following like the path of Assassin, so I was going to go even back further than Olsen. Because the first person we see Assassin in is this unnamed game warden that was at the Navarro house.
Oh, I think she did have a name. I think it was like Mary Alice.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Unnamed in my notes, I'll say. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, this game warden character, because that's who Olsen and McNabb and Travis were following as like, this is the bad visitor. We've figured out that that's who they're inhabiting. And they follow her to the Navarro house, and that's exactly what's going on. She's the one that's there to plant the trap, the tree, those things. And then it goes from her to Travis, because Travis decides to try to drown her and take it out, and then gets shot in the process. And then it's Travis, and then Travis is the one that then transfers it over to Olsen. And the reason I think Olsen didn't even try to kill Travis after the transfer is because he just taken 2 or 3 shots to the chest. I think Olsen, or Assassin in Olsen, was like, oh, this kid's gonna die in a few minutes anyway, so just go.
Yeah. He's not going to be able to tell anything. So why am I going to keep him alive? But we also find out, too, that they knew that Carmen was Harbinger. Like, they could tell from that she was there.
Which is where the Black Dog comes in. The Black Dog did belong to the Game Warden. Yeah. And that was a way to, if Harbinger makes a run for it, you're there to stop her.
Yeah.
Which he did, or the dog did, but just after Harbinger had already transferred to Arlo.
Yep.
How crazy was that scene where Travis grabbed James? I think it was the end.
Oh, yeah.
So 2?
It's like the end of episode 4.
Oh, was it?
No, and 3. End of 3 is when he gets pulled down the stairs and it ends there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was so scary. What?
Somebody else is there. But that gave us a lot of the backstory on McNabb and everything that's gone on.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of the research and work that they had done and the network of people and what they had built together.
Yeah.
And you knew that it was a bigger network. It was, that made the world bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But I wondered with the tree, the rainbow tree, is that what makes the perimeter that they can't cross? Like, is it?
I think so.
Because
I think that's the center point.
Because I went back to the whole Tempest in a Teacup thing that Maggie was talking to Arlo about with the teacup and the wasp.
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing that I did discover, when Arlo picked up marbles to put under the teacup, he picked up the same number of people that were at the farm at that time. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm like, oh, okay.
I totally didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems very just nothing until that last episode where he takes the red marble and says, "That's Assassin," takes the others out and leaves Assassin behind, back under the cup.
Yeah. That episode where it was revealed that Valeria was Assassin, at the beginning of the episode, the way she looked when she was dropping something off at the door, I'm thinking, is she Assassin now? But then Ruben was also acting really, I don't know. There were things that made me start to question, is he Assassin? Because they were just different things that were happening, and I was thinking, okay, he's moved. Especially because Ellen was saying, well, I don't think he's in me now because I know where I am. I'm here, I'm present. And
they made sure to show Ellen's hands shaking again anytime she was talking.
Because that was the difference. Because I think she has MS.
Which is probably what with her son.
Yes. Yeah. I know I wrote that down. Yes.
And MS is a disease that it's very unpredictable. Your hand could be fine one day and the next day it's not. Like muscles, it's like, I saw an ad once that showed a person and then one day their arms are changed. The next day the feet are changed. Like your body just reacts differently. Every day you just don't know what you're going to be able to do. And so that was the giveaway there. So you knew that it had passed. I wasn't sure who it was. And then it turned out that it was Valeria. When she wanted to take Nicholas outside, that's when I was like, yep, she is. She has to be Assassin. I don't care that she says she knows who it is. No, she's it. And then she starts transferring it. I'm like, no, don't do that. Because before that, Meryl and Nicholas had this really heartwarming moment where they kissed. And I'm like, oh boy. And then he can... So I got a little annoyed because I thought, now they'll probably kiss and he'll pass it to her. So I kind of could see what was coming. What I didn't see coming was the drowning and the pieces that came after that.
Yeah, that's what... I was coming to ask you guys, what you guys think about the drowning? I knew somebody was going to have to drown, having the assassin, and when it ended up being Merle, I was like, well, I guess that's the only logical one for these two parents to come together and save her. Because basically when you drown, you're going to die, and Maggie would have to bring her back. And as they're sitting there doing that, I thought, well, where's the assassin going to go? Where's the assassin going to go once they drown this girl? And of course, my question's answered like a couple scenes later, but I was just like, so that's it? That's all you do and the assassin's gone? But yeah.
Yeah. If it would have gone smoothly, does assassin drown and is gone and can't inhabit somebody else? Like, I don't know how that works. How does assassin survive outside of a body, and for how long can it? And we don't have those answers. maybe if we get another season, some of those things can be explored. I don't know, but yeah, no, I think earlier in the episode when Maggie says something about, I'm going to be the one that has to drown whoever it is because you think I'm cold enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that was kind of a giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why my brain kind of clicked when she said that. I was like, and it's going to have to be her own daughter. I just I kind of felt it was going to happen that way. And then seeing the dominoes fall to lead to that, I was like, yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, I had a feeling too. It's a lot. I mean, for her. And for a minute, I thought maybe they wouldn't save Meryl. And I thought, oh my God, this is just going to go in a darker way than what I was thinking. But
yeah,
it ended up Meryl came back. And Assassin took another person.
Yeah, and was fighting it, which was different from all the rest. The other that got taken over by Assassin, they had no choice. It just happened.
Yeah.
It was like Get Out. It was like Get Out. You're a passenger in your own body.
Yeah. My theory for why James was able to be fighting it the way he was is I think because of the drowning. I think Assassin had been weakened by that to where it gave James the opportunity to tell his family to run and fight it a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And they listened.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they listened. I
Mostly.
know. Well, Meryl had a really hard time with it because it's Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that reminded me of The Strain because I just rewatched the whole series of The Strain, and there were moments with a kid and his mother, like kid trying to tell his father, but it's Mom, and they're not your mother anymore. They're not your father anymore. Like it's not him. Yeah. It's with kids. It's hard to get across to them. They don't understand what you're trying to do. They just see what they want to see and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Add on my own assassin
do you guys
notes.
think he survived being in that freezer?
I don't know. That's who knows?
Questions from that finale.
Ellen
with him yet?
They left Ellen there with him. I don't think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
She's his mother. The first thing she's going to go do is go check on him.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, no, you're right. She probably would release him or something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's her son. I mean, she wouldn't want him to die. I don't think it was a good idea for her to be left there alone with him.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, like she said, who's going to take care of the animals? Somebody has to take care of the animals.
That is true.
Stay back. And they weren't going to leave any of the kids.
Mm-mm.
And they needed Reuben to help Maggie. So, yeah.
They could have left Donald, but he's too valuable with the guns. So I feel like
they needed some well-armed people out there. Yeah. And we've learned Ellen's not good with a gun or any kind of responsibility unless she's being possessed by an evil alien entity. Then she can handle it.
Definitely.
But yeah, because immediately when they leave Ellen up there with Olsen before
that was a bad idea. Also,
I'm like, you picked her to hold a gun on him. I was like, that is the worst. She is the absolute worst choice for hostage taker I've ever seen. I don't know why we're choosing her.
That was.
She seems least capable to contain a hostage. I don't know why you're doing that.
Yeah. It was not a good idea. I feel like there were mistakes that were made by them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have it with her because, just kind of go through my, assassin notes is, one of the points. Yeah, I mean, immediately when Olsen shows up, it's you think of the whiteboard that McNabb had, and it's don't trust anyone. It's I think that applies here, doesn't it?
Yes.
And immediately, and it's Ellen. I was like, read the room, Ellen, Ixnay on the Arlo, yay. Because, this stranger walks up, and he's just so... where's everybody going on? And she's like, well, Arlo came back from the woods acting different than he usually does, and I think he's in the barn right now. And
he's your grandson. You do not give that up.
Why are you just blabbing on about everything that this person is clearly fishing for?
I think she might have needed to take a nap at that point.
Oh, my God.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, he seems, before we know who he is as assassin, or even before we get that name, it's like, he seems honest and forthright, talking about, like, yeah, here's the thing that's going on, there's this happening. But I like that Maggie, I don't know if sees through it is the right way, but she's not going to take any risks when it comes to her kids. So she's like, I'm choosing to not risk it and not trust you no matter what you say right now. But yeah, and then that's where we start with him and Ellen. Then we see the works like Harbinger can kind of transfer from one to the other. Let's see. I've said a lot of them. Yeah, Ellen was definitely going to be a temporary choice. It was like, how long does not Ellen keep up the sweet grandma routine? Because I think he really wanted to get to Maggie and just couldn't quite get to her.
Yeah, because Maggie, being the strong one, would have been almost impossible to defeat.
Yeah, but James was smart enough to put 2 and 2 together and realize that it was his mom. After his conversation with Travis, like, he had that upper hand there.
Yeah.
We got some good classic horror shots while it is Ellen, where, like, I think it's Valeria standing in the dark by the stables, and we get the, like, Ellen walking, like, the shadow in the background walking. And I was just like, I love those things. And then we have the moment where it's not in Ellen anymore, and we don't know who it is. We get, like, a whole episode, and like, over the course of 2 episodes, we get, like, a good chunk of time where we don't know who it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And it becomes very, Among Us. Very... like...
Very sus of everyone.
Everyone seems real sus right now, They're all planning, let's just have business as usual until Assassin makes a mistake, and then somebody's got to run and call an emergency meeting. Like, that was the play, which that was really cool to see. And then we get the... Nicholas has been reading through this journal that I think... Did Travis have it, or McNabb? One of their journals. But he had found that, and he's going through it. And his idea was like, well, drowning is what's going to take care of Assassin. Which then, I like that they plant those little things, because earlier on when Ruben and James show up at the farm and just everybody's dead, and there's the inflatable pool with the water hose still just going, and
yes,
the CPR instructions next to it, and you're like, what is that about? And it's not until, like, episodes later you realize, because then Travis was trying to drown the game warden, and then you, like, and it's like, now it all makes sense. Yeah. I like that they plant little seeds and let you find out later.
Things are intentional, and it sets it up for you to be paying attention to every little detail, because you don't know when it's going to pay off.
Yeah. So I thought I liked a lot of that tension early on in the beginning of that one episode, where it's like in and around the house, where nobody knows who Assassin is inhabiting at the time. Yeah. So nobody can fully trust each other. And so many people have guns, so it's especially intense, and they're just waiting for something to go down, and it's all... And then we have the Ellen and Valeria with the knife, and I was like, Chekhov's assassin's knife. It's like, that's coming back into play. And then it didn't, really, but it was like... But it gave that tension. We're like, what's going to happen here? And then, the Valeria and Nick. Oof, that was rough. And then,
Yeah, watching his face when he realized, he killed his mother.
When he remembered he'd killed her? Or,
at least found the body, and then kind of, I'm sure that's going to be something he's going to have to really deal with in therapy, except you can't really tell anybody about. And then this alien took me over, and I killed my mom. Wait, what?
Yeah, what? That's when they book you, a hotel stay at a sanitarium.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Assassin using Nicholas and his dumb jokes in order to get to Meryl. I was like, that's just a low blow. And then I was like, I really hope he survives the literal head rocking. And he did. So that's good. I was glad. I'm like, yay. But then Arlo saw the transfer into Meryl. So the humans get an upper hand for a little bit. Yeah. Like, okay, good. Like, we know who it is.
I was worried. I really was worried. I'm like, no.
Don't let her get to him. Yeah. But he saw it.
Yep.
And then that's where... Then Arlo runs to his parents, and then they set up the whole plan for the drowning thing, which afterwards we talked about that a little bit, but it was definitely still emotional, and I'm glad that Meryl was able to come back. But while I'm watching it, I was like, I feel like she should have been pushing a little harder on that CPR. I wasn't...
It didn't look very...
It didn't look really very
It'd be
effective.
Interesting, Pake, to ask Alex what he thought of that scene, because he's
absolutely.
someone who teaches CPR.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be definitely interested in...
Yeah.
Well, I was worried that, when you do the compressions and then you have to blow in their mouth. I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to blow in her mouth and the assassin's going to go right in her. That's what I was going to happen.
That's what she was worried about. Yeah, then I guess it got to jump to James somehow in that process. He lost his mask, so it had to have been at that point somewhere.
Yes.
Well, I think he ripped it off because he was he was having trouble trying to drown his daughter with the mask on. So he got rid of it. So I
hate when that happens. It's a problem. And then James's end, as far as we know, he never really was a sympathetic character or a great person in general. However, I still don't think he was deserving of that, but it is what has to be done. It's kind of that moment. It's clearly, it's we tried the drowning thing and then it just jumped to him. More extreme measures have to be taken.
Yeah. The one thing I think, when you think about Assassin, he's very, calculating. He makes good decisions as far as how he insinuates himself into the situations and being careful, which I think Harbinger, being inside a kid, it's a little more difficult to be, as focused. Although I do think Harbinger made the right choice because, of course, the adults are going to protect the child. Right.
It's if Harbinger, and that's even Arlo / Harlow, whichever one at the time says that. Yeah, it's no, it makes the most sense because if it's a kid, then immediately they automatically have protection and they have people that are going to stand in the way.
Yeah.
Although being in a kid is a little bit of because a child is not as strong as an adult.
Yeah. Definitely leaves him more vulnerable without the adult protection. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Had he not seen that the assassin was in his sister, that could have been a disaster.
Right.
But he did. So he was able to get his parents to help and they were able to work it out.
Yeah, I don't kind of answer, I guess, again, something you asked earlier, whether James survived or not. I don't know. It could easily go either way. Do we get Scott Speedman to continue on the show, or was he a one season and done? And it can go either way. It's you need an assassin, I think, to further this plot.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the episode, we learned that there's so many other
there is more
that are waking up. So we don't need his version of it anymore.
Right.
Technically, there are others. So it could go either way. Who knows?
It's really interesting to see Scott Speedman in a role like this. Yeah. I just remember him from Felicity, and he was not as complicated. On this show, he's not likable. Even from a father perspective, I don't know. I just don't think he's likable. I don't find him to have any redeeming qualities.
Not really. I was not a fan of his character. I think, like I said, in my note, I called him, he was not a sympathetic character at all.
No. Even when James and Maggie were talking and discussing their relationship and seeming to bond a little bit, I still didn't like him.
Because he seemed like he was the one that was cold, not her, and calling her the cold one. It just kind of, maybe she's cold because of you,
Yeah.
But I love Scott Speedman. I remember him from Animal Kingdom. Did you guys watch that one?
I didn't.
That's he had a pretty good role on that, and so that's where I became a fan of his. So I really liked him, but in this particular show, definitely not likable.
Yeah, not likable at all. And I do like a good redemption arc, but I don't find. Yeah, I'm not. If that's it for him, then okay. I'm just interested to see where they take it next, because stuff happened after they locked him in the freezer that makes me excited to continue the series.
Yeah.
So I have any more points since we kind of combined mine.
Yeah, I have my last one that I'll try not to take too long, and then I have a bunch of notes. Again,
I have a few,
but
yeah, I do too.
Yeah, so the last one I just kind of called the ins and outs of the trap, and I mean it in a couple different ways, literal in and out, and then also just kind of seeing what's going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned the temp.
Are you going to talk about the concert, Pake? The trap concert?
Yeah, yeah. I decided for this last point, I'm just going to talk about the M. Night Shyamalan movie Trap again, because we had such a good time. So,
That's why you couldn't make any comment on the signs. I'm like, I don't even want to say anything. I do like M. Night Shyamalan. He's one of my favorite directors, but that's without saying. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, because as we're recording this, you haven't heard our signs episode yet because it comes out tomorrow. But by the time this is out, it has been out for a few weeks. So at that point in the future, I think you'll be a lot happier with our coverage of that one than you were with Trap. So
yeah.
Yeah, so ins and out of that. So you mentioned the Tempest in the Teacup with the Wasp. Right off, like the first thing we see, first scene of the first episode, which is immediately this foreshadowing analogy is like there will be a storm brewing inside the confines of this property very soon, and then the other things that come with that. And so they're immediately setting up. And then, of course, we see all the animals are on edge. There's like the animals have this kind of sixth sense of when something is off and not
they do
human and not normal, you know.
I've talked about that today with a few people about how their cats in particular are very clingy this week.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like this whole trap thing, I mean, it's almost like an EMP. Like the cell signal, power, car batteries, everything just fritzes out and they are trapped. And you see that McNabb, before we even know his name, not fucking around, but for good reason, as we learn more about him, but he seems like a very scary figure at first. Yeah, and then we get the black dog who runs out of the woods, chases Dawn down, and then gets yeeted over the line, showing everyone why we do not cross the line. They learned pretty easy there. It's like, okay, we get it. And then Claire, unfortunately, was...
That was cross the line and how everybody just explodes. Oh.
Yeah. Ooh, it was rough. Yeah, because the dog was one thing. Like, you're like, oh my God. Like, that's the first you see of it. And you're like, holy shit, what is that? And then second episode, we end it with Claire. And it's like...
She's twisting. And it's like her body's turning inside out.
Yes.
She was... All right, I said I didn't have many jokes in this one, and this one wasn't even meant to be. It was just me typing it, but now as I'm reading it, I'm like, I could make it a really inappropriate pun, but Claire was really dead set on going home, but all right, anyway. Yeah, didn't end it well, but that scene, as terrifying as it was, like, great horror. The flickering lantern that she was holding, like, really adds to that horror. We get Donald's skin on his hand and his arm like melting off since he reaches over the line for her, and it's just brutal. And then
they use it sparingly. All of the things that they do, the effects and everything, they use those sparingly and use a lot of implied in like, oh, you just get shadows on things, and what you see is still terrifying. Because
you can tell the CGI budget for the show was not super high, because especially when we get to the trap tree, sparkle tree, rainbow tree, whatever we want to call it, there are some of those shots where you're like, that's just not good. Just CGI wise, like, special effects can only do so much with that budget. But yeah, but I think they played off some of those early moments which hook you into the show really well and used it sparingly enough. Even more brutal in the daylight when you really see what happened to Claire, and you're like, damn.
Yeah, that was a big like jolt to the system, seeing things in the daylight.
Yeah. Let's see. The sparkly alien tree is another term that I use here. Ruben finds that, and then James gets dragged down to a basement by a bloodied young guy with a gun. Ruben's stuck in there, and then they show what happens with the tree if you touch it with that spider, but it just looked all radioactive and the spider come down, and I just rewatched the Spider-Verse movies. So I just have a note. I was like, and that's how I, Reuben Shanley, became this farm's one and only Spider-Man. Wait, no, never mind.
You are deep in the Spider-Verse right now.
Yeah. Very much. Let's see. Yeah, the Reuben's little hangout with the alien trap tree definitely did something to him. He's just like spacing out and staring at it. And then even like when they mentioned the liquid out in the forest and all these things, like he's just very adamant, like, take me to it. And I was wondering if that was going to be more of like this weird obsessive thing, but it wasn't really. It doesn't come back too much. But he's got like kind of this connection to it. But I guess it doesn't bother him anymore. He was able to get away from it, and he kind of broke that connection because he was able to go back and try to burn it down, and then even grabs a piece of it later, and it's not fully attaching himself or, obsessing him. See, the animals are super drawn to the liquid for some reason, because around the crater where the liquid was, you just see dead animals all over. Like they all just came and had to drink from it. And then we see that with the wolves showing up and like aggressively like claiming it as theirs and then drinking it and then running off across the line. So you can see it works. They made it across after drinking it. So that theory is proven.
They should have given some to that poor snake. That was one thing that stood out to me. It was the look of it was freaking amazing. Mm-hmm. The way that oh man, it was great.
So the horses continue just to act crazy. They really don't like having aliens around, do they?
No. Do you blame them? It reminds me of Nope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Reuben comes up with his big plan. He's talking to Don. He's like, I'm doing it. And like his plan is to light the silo on fire and burn down the trap tree, which did not work at all. It just burned the silo. Now the trap tree is unhidden in plain view for anybody to be attracted to. But McNabb shows up and has the liquid from the necklace vial. And it's a little bit, he's like, it's not enough to get you across the line, but it's enough to protect him from being killed by touching the tree. So he's able to go and grab this piece of it, which then becomes more liquid that they can use, which, how convenient that wasn't ever mentioned until right then. I guess it's something McNabb knew. He seems to know a lot, so I'll buy it. But
we learn as we go. McNabb is only telling us things on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's kind of the trap plan then. So and then that works out for them. They finally... So I don't know if we'll go back to the farm at all. That might be, honestly, it might be all we see of James or Ellen for the rest of this show. I don't know if we go back to them or not. Maybe, I would hope so in some regard, but who knows? But yeah, because we're out of the trap. We're across the line. We're off the farm. And that's because using that, it almost looks like an antler. Maybe think of like Sweet Tooth with the tree.
Yes.
The antlers.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, being able to take that and then like turn it into more liquid for all of them to drink. Just line up the little row of glasses with the liquid in them, and then everybody shots. And they made it, so it's good.
But did they?
They made it across the line.
They did, but that's not the end of where they're at.
No.
So I'm assuming they're gonna follow the map up to New York? Is that where they were going?
It's Vermont, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was New York. A long trip.
Let's see.
Season 2, road trip!
Especially with assassins coming at you from
all over the place.
All over the place.
See, the big question I have for the road trip season of season 2 is, does Harbinger like Cheetos or Doritos better? What's his road trip snack?
Belknap. Yeah, Belknap Mountain. Let's see where it actually is. I think it's Vermont. It's in New Hampshire.
Oh, we will.
So... yeah, it looks like they're going to be taking a road trip to New Hampshire.
All right.
How long do you guys think that's of a road trip? About 10 hours?
From Atlanta to there. Possible. Well, yeah. I don't know. Google Maps. Google Maps.
I'm doing a quickie little thing. 19 hours and 35 minutes.
Wow.
Oh, it's a lot longer than okay, it's almost twice as long.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's a long ways away.
I think it's really smart of them, though, to look at it this way. I haven't read the book, so I don't know, like, if road tripping is part of it, but I think focusing this season on the farm and building this backstory and then taking it on the road is, I think, really smart.
Mm-hmm.
Don't drag it out on the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too small of a world. Now it's bigger.
Yeah, if you're expanding the world figuratively and in literature terms and storytelling, then you're going to have to literally expand it with geographically, like where they're going as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's still so many unanswered questions that.
Yeah.
It's just like From. Every episode, more questions unanswered than the time before. And those questions from the last episode were never answered in the first damn place. So it's just ongoing and ongoing. It's just, but that's part of the appeal for me is keep watching.
I need answers. Best I can do is more questions.
Yeah. You know
Hope
what?
that's okay.
Clever TV knows how to do both.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times before you get answers, you end up getting more questions. And then series will end and not answer all your questions because they may not have thought of the question you have as being the most important to answer.
Mm-hmm.
It may have just been a throwaway thing that isn't meant to mean anything more than it was there and it's gone.
What kind of show would do something like that? I am lost to the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Errol Dixon kind of did it a little bit. Game.
All right. Well, Alma, do you have any other just kind of notes?
No, you guys. The only thing that I did want to mention that Daphne, you had wrote on the doc about the teacup, and I thought that was just very interesting. I hadn't looked at it like that at all, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. So I'm going to go back and rewatch it with all that in mind that you had said about how it's the environment and how they're all trapped in it and the tempest. I just thought it was very interesting. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. I kind of want to go back and rewatch this series now that it's ended, so I can see if I can pick up on any other thing.
Yes.
I even went so far as to write down who went over the line, like first, second, third, because if it ever comes into play, if there is a season 2 and it comes into play, what if there's some, I don't know, probably nothing, but I feel like what we've learned from watching shows like this is you've got to pay attention to every little thing that goes on.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was because I just watched it before jumping on here, those last 2 episodes. So if I think I can recall correctly, yeah, and again, it might not be important at all, but yeah, the order: McNabb went first, then Donald, then Nicholas, then Reuben, then Meryl, Arlo, and then Maggie was the last one.
Yes, that is correct. You get a point, Pake.
Yay!
I think
I won the game. Yay!
I think when we first meet Donald, it's easy to get like a misconception about his character. But as time went on and you got to learn a little bit more about him and you see him dealing with his wife's death and everything that's just been happening, I think he was really smart. I mean, they were burning a fire at one point, I think, trying to get attention. And he is the one who actually says, well, we're going to put tires on it because smoke will be black. Like, I feel like he had, you know, he paid attention. He knew the assignment. He was trying to win. But then there's also a moment that he has in the clinic with Maggie where he's being supportive because she's going through a lot. She can't as strong as she is, she can't keep it together every second of the day. Like, this is weighing on her. And frankly, James never provided any kind of support like that. Like, that we saw.
Yeah, I've got like a bunch of extra notes that I'll get through. But he's part of that, where he's a very kind of brash character at first, but then you really do start to feel for him, especially after Claire's death. He has this whole thing where he's talking about him and Claire always wanting kids and it just never really working out. Yeah. And like really opening up about that, and that whole monologue was really powerful. And then, like you said, later in the clinic is not just support to Maggie, but like he's legitimately like walking and talking her through a panic attack. And he's not the guy you would think would be the person to do that for somebody, but he knew what to do.
He did. I really appreciated that, because we got to see more into him, and it gave me, like, I ended up liking his character so much more than I thought I was going to. Yeah. Because we got to see the depth that's there. You know, he lost his wife, and I feel like that was kind of part of a catalyst to him. You know, he kind of shut down and was dealing with his hand and just everything. And I feel like we got to see a different, deeper person in there.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
And then loosely with him, just because he's the one that was in the scene watching it, is there's this plane flying overhead, and they really focus on him watching it. And I don't know what the point of it was, other than this, like, maybe he's wondering the same thing I'm wondering in that moment, watching this plane fly overhead, where it's like, well, for the plane to fly overhead, it crosses the plane of the property lines, right? So it's like, so you're waiting, it's like, does the plane go down or melt, or what's going to happen? And it seems to be fine. So then you're like, is there a height limit to getting out of here? Because I wonder if that was going to come back, or is it like a dome? Is it under the dome? Are we doing Stephen King? Yeah. You know, but then I was like, in this case, do they try to escape by going up somehow versus out? Like, it made me start wondering. None of that came back into play. Maybe it could in another future thing, who knows? But
they could try.
But I was like, what was the purpose of showing that plane? I was like, other than it made me think, I was like, yeah, what's the upper like limit of this?
It may trap? Just be like the same distance all around. I mean, could they dig a hole underground? Right. I mean, I don't know.
So Daphne, do you have other notes?
I don't think that we could end. I had a couple of quotes. One where Olsen and McNabb are teaching Travis to shoot the gun, and they're putting pictures on the trees that are not just like stick figures, it's like actual pictures. And they say to him, shooting a stranger, that's easy. Shooting a friend, that's hard. So, the end of the episode, where Maggie, I think, in her ultimate badass queen that she is, says, we're not going anywhere until you tell us what the fuck is going on. Yeah. And I feel like she's got the road rage now, and she's gonna take on whoever, because what happens just before that is they think they're getting rescued. They think there are people that are friends with McNabb that are going to help them. And that is not the case.
Well, especially because they knew stuff. They do. Oh, you're here and you're about where you should have been. And what? Okay. So they kind of like, they're friends already, but can't trust it.
No. Don't trust anyone.
The lady says, that she was part of the like forums and stuff online, so knew what he was doing, but was actually the hunted becoming the hunter in a way, that one of the assassins is coming after McNabb. I have like other like names for that, because at the beginning of the beginning of the finale with her, I was like, random yoga pants lady, and she's looking for McNabb, and then I gave her a couple of different names, but because Ellen's staying behind, but they go across, is like. And then I also named it, like, they run into Morning Run Molly and her friend while they're looking for McNabb. But then they get run over by Eyeliner Emily and her boy Chicken.
Oh my God. Eyeliner Emily. and her boy chicken.
Yep. So that's the other people who seem to be good, as far as I know here. And then they reveal that the other lady and the other guy were assassins. So yeah, be interested to see what happens.
That was almost comical that they introduced them and killed them right away.
Yeah. Like the whole episode, it's in the back of your head. We're like, who was that lady at the beginning?
Yeah.
I bet that's important. Oh, and there she is, and wham! Okay, never mind.
I also want to mention, I thought that the casting for Maggie and Meryl was incredibly well done.
Yes.
Because I think that Emily Bier, who played Meryl, she really strongly resembles Yvonne Strahovski. And I could totally buy them being mother and daughter.
Yes, I totally agree.
I see other notes. Again, I think I mentioned is like, the black dog has to be significant. Never mind, not really. And then Duke, the other dog, is like, while they're all trying to figure out who assassin is, and they're like sneaking around, and it like jump scares, I think, James. And it's like, freaking Duke.
All I was worried about was making sure Duke stayed alive.
Yes,
yeah.
Duke, the goat, the horses. I was worried about the animals the whole time.
See, Ellen, mentioned her a little bit. MS, so she's like moved in so that she can have some people keeping an eye on her and taking care of her in, case it gets worse and worse. So she's just not on her own. And so now they get to live in cool pot-smoking grandma who gives teenagers whiskey. So hell yeah.
I mean, really. Who could ask for more?
Right. I have some Nicholas and Meryl a little bit kind of there. Young love. And of course I was hoping it was going to be more of a runner, and we really only got it in the first 2 episodes, and then he didn't do it again until the end. It like mentioned, but he didn't. I was hoping I was going to have a whole section of just Nicholas jokes, and he only told like 2 of them. But I wrote those down.
I had a feeling you were going to connect with him.
Where, what do you call a banana eating a banana? Cannabanalism. Which.
Oh, yes.
I loved that. And then, of course, what do you call a bird who's like too afraid to fly? Chicken. So those were great. And I was wishing he would have more, but that's all he had.
Well, maybe next season if there is one.
Yeah, we need to bring back Nicholas's jokes. Because after his mom was killed at his hands and all that, he's got to be feeling all kinds of silly. So, but who knows? But I want more of those. Yeah, and then just like his relationship with Meryl, I don't know where I sit on it. Like, I'm not really sure on their ages. I don't think it's too far apart. But he has too much of the little boy next door vibe to me. Where, like, of course he would have a crush on her, but like it being reciprocated feels a little strange. Like, she feels, even if they're not that far apart in age, she just seems older and more mature than he is.
Yeah. And
it was just kind of like, that vibe is not clicking for me. Even to where, like, while they're kissing, I'm like, he just still gives me this little brother vibe. And it's cute, I guess, but it's like, as precious as he is, I was like, he just still seems like a little kid next to her. And I'm like, I don't know.
So I think she is a little older, or maybe they're in the same grade. But like I said, he's just awkward and a little bit on the nerdy side, where she is more like, she has her head on straight, and she knows where she's going, and and she's very smart.
Yeah.
Well, she's been training with her mother. Like, she helps her mom in the clinic.
Exactly.
So she's already had like education, and she does seem more mature and grown up.
Yeah. So, and maybe it's because the still seeing a little bit of like Javi in him. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, so it was hard for me to make that connect between the two of them. But like, there was still as much. I mean, I was like, I think he's growing on her a little bit, because like, I think she's talking to her mom, and there's like this moment where she's like, well, I don't know, he's kind of, and then she like trails off and doesn't. And I was like, you're gonna say he was kind of cute, weren't you? You were about to say it, and you caught yourself and went, nope, I can't do that. I think she was.
He makes her laugh.
Yeah, which was always good.
And you know what? That is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. But then on the other side of that, from his end, it's like, there's no secret. There's no hiding it or denying it. Like, straight up in the woods, he just, like, nonchalantly, like, professes love to her.
He does.
And it's like, we're walking through the woods with the girl you love. And it was just like, what did you say? And it's like, well, I guess no better time after
we die.
than the like, when learning that we're going to die or die. So, I guess.
Might as well tell you.
Might as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they have that conversation about the drowning thing, which again was another, like, kind of hint that it was going to be her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he says, like, I heard that drowning is just kind of like falling asleep. And she's like, you know who says that? Somebody who's never drowned. And I was like, yeah, it's not be good. But yeah, he's like, drowning's just like falling asleep. And then I added my own note. I was like, yeah, just some extra intense pain and fear and panic. But aside from that,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Nicholas and Meryl, guardians of the Harbinger.
Yep.
As they're sitting out there together in front of Arlo's room. And I'm glad that he survived the rock to the head, but then also really crushed for him to find his mom like that. And we don't really see if it's clicked that it was him that did it, but he'll have to come to terms with that at some point, I think. And so, yeah, I like the character of Nick. Again, like the relationship, the kind of romantic part of his story, I still don't know if I'm vibing with so much, just because I don't know, like I said, he just seems, even if they're the same age, he seems younger than her in so many ways. I'm like, it's hard for me to click. But him as a character, as a kid, I really enjoy him because he's funny. He's got that kind of like charming kind of thing to him, but like there's also now a lot of like tragic stuff that they can really pull and play with too.
Yeah.
So,
and there's also like trauma bonding that goes on, like when two people are in something together and they go through it. Yeah. It can, pull people together.
Yeah. And then we didn't talk about this, which I don't know if they did it for every episode. I think they kind of fell off after a point. But at least early on, the episode titles are all incorporated into the episode in some way with music, with titles of songs that were being used and things like that, which I thought was cool.
I really did love that. Right from the beginning, I thought it was cool.
Let's see. We didn't really talk about Travis too much. I had a couple notes about him. With him knowing about the line that they're not supposed to cross, and as James is down there in the basement with him, and James is like, I know it's going to sound crazy, but here's what's going on, and Travis is like, yeah, I know. Welcome to the party, pal. Glad you caught up on what's going on.
He kind of got indoctrinated into the weird, conspiracy theory, assassin, harbinger thing.
Yeah, we get that. Yeah, that flashback and backstory with him of, I had that interesting interaction with McNabb before this, and working at the bar, and then kind of being really amused and then interested in what McNabb had to say, and then it comes with him being the one burdened with taking McNabb home because he was too drunk to drive. Which I'd noticed, Travis, you're just a weird little klepto. Why do you keep stealing things? It was just something about him. But yeah, then he just kind of becomes McNabb's student in a way, listening and learning about all he knows about these visitors. Yeah, and it's really, he gets trained up in that. And then, you see him, ready to go to where he's, part of the team with Olsen and meeting him and getting trained. And then once it's, go time, when they get to the Navarro house, he's, not super into it. You see him feeling a little off. Once they tell him, oh yeah, here's the person, and we're hunting them down because they're a bad alien, and it's
and we gotta kill it.
You can see him being what have I gotten myself into? Because I'm am I hanging out with crazy people right now, and I'm about to do something really bad to an innocent person? You can really see him second guessing it. Yeah.
I mean, you look at a situation and you've been fed a bill of goods, and you read into it and trust it and believe it, and it becomes your mantra or your doctrine. And then you realize that maybe it's not the right thing to do because they were serious about some things.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck with your new reality.
Which is so scary.
But yeah, I guess McNabb still is able to convince him through them sitting and him showing him the vial with the liquid and telling him the story of his daughter and the interactions with the good and bad visitors, and that he's firsthand gone through all this. And I guess McNabb is, again, he had terrible people skills, like I mentioned earlier, but at least with Travis, he's, convincing enough.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
My last note on my last note that I wrote down is, it's been a long weekend at Long Lane Animal Clinic, which is the name of the clinic.
Yeah.
It started really with them bringing the horse there, and it never stopped after that.
Yeah.
Wow. Does anyone have anything else? Because I feel like we have talked about this show.
It is fully broken down. It's a longer episode for this podcast, but I figured it would be because there's a lot.
Well, 8
to
episodes.
talk about in here. Yeah, it's a lot to talk about.
And we don't usually do it this way. Like, we don't usually cover a series. In fact, I think we've covered series. We did Camp Cretaceous Season 1.
I think that's it.
We did an episode of
An episode of a TV show, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it.
It was like a 12-minute episode. It was something like that. So yeah, this is
special.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the feedback phone is going off, so we may have run out of things to say about this, but I feel like some others might have some thoughts. So
Let's find out.
go check it out. And we do have one piece of feedback, one big one, one good one, which is great. And then maybe we'll get more later. So it's they're not the super longest episodes, but it is a full season of a show. People might need a little time to watch it. Maybe listening to this, give us your thoughts. Love it. But yeah, we have one from Sam, which is great. So I'll go ahead and read that. It says, Daphne, Pake, and Alma! I'm so excited to listen to the pod, even more than usual. I loved this show since episode 1. A haunting premise taken into an intimate setting, an isolated farm, and 3 families. For me, the real draw was not only acting, but the metaphors of the show. Our families can become teacups that we are trapped in, sometimes lovingly, but still connected and impacted by. We're vulnerable to different types of invasions of ourselves and our loved ones, such as addiction, affairs, and differing values. And how do we escape our teacup if this happens? Boundaries for the invader, which allow us to escape the trap. Hopefully not an actual freezer or death, or the magic elixir. As I saw it, may be therapy or our own inner work. Either way, we have to make hard choices and take scary risks to be free. And we are rarely alone when we do it. Or maybe I just did too much work today. I can't wait to see this intriguing story going bigger. I hope that James is alive, but that's my bias towards Speedman. I blame the Underworld movie. What do you guys think woke...
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think woke the other assassins on a global scale? Does that mean the invasion has begun? Was Harbinger supposed to ring a bell to keep them sleeping and he was too late? Don't get infected with the alien murder breath / alien COVID.
Oh my gosh. Sam, that is incredible.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, it took me till episode 2, and then I was completely in. First episode, I was intrigued. Second episode, I was totally in.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you would like to submit your feedback, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast, or you can email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. You can go to Run For Your Lives Podcast for all the links that you're ever going to need. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. And if you feel like it, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
We absolutely do appreciate it a lot. Of course, speaking of sharing the love, got to give those shout outs to things going on in the Podcastica universe around us. Lots of other fun stuff to listen to. Of course, my other podcast that I'm not on currently, taking a little break from, but stuff is going on over on Strange Indeed as the Great British Baking Show, Great British Bake Off, whatever you are watching it under. Still going on. They've been covering over that. Wendy, Rima, Greg, doing some great coverage over there, so you can always check that out. Of course, Alex and Lizzie continuing to do great work, coverage, and live after show talks on their YouTube channel with From Season 3 right now. So as that's continuing to come out, definitely check out that show and then their coverage. Been some really great stuff. And then a lot of other stuff has kind of ended. We're in like another little off period between shows, but don't worry, so much stuff is still coming right around the bend. A lot of Marvel stuff coming up. I'm sure, because from what I understand, I think What If Season 3 is actually going to be a December drop now, the end of this year. And then early next year's got a bunch of Marvel stuff, so I know like the Marvel TV cast will probably be jumping onto some of that stuff, so stay tuned for that. Yellow Jackets is possibly coming back very early next year, so definitely stay tuned for that. Lots of good stuff coming around the bend after the holidays, so stay tuned with that stuff. But outside of Podcastica, of course, you can always check out our good friends over at TV Podcast Industries as they're continuing to cover the show The Penguin, the DC show there. So you can give them some listen as well. Check out their coverage. And then, usually I would say next week you can come back and we'll have something for you. But with the craziness of holiday season and everything, we are taking another short little break, no episode next week. But we will be coming back in 2 weeks. And Daphne, what do we got for them then?
So when we come back, we will be serving up our holiday special for Thanksgiving. We're doing a movie called Thanksgiving. It came out last year. And Patrick Dempsey is in it. It's a lot happens in that movie, and I can't wait. I can't wait to release the episode. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. This was a lot of fun,
and thanks again, Alma, for being on this week to talk about this show. It was awesome having you on, getting to hear more thoughts from you on the inside, not just from the feedback side of things. So that's always great.
Yeah.
So usually I would ask at this time for like guests and stuff if you have any plugs or anything. I don't know if you're doing anything else, working on anything else, or even if nothing for yourself, if you just want to give anything else that we haven't talked about, a shout out. Tell people what to check out. What are you into right now?
I'm excited about the rewatch of The Walking Dead, getting back to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Daryl Dixon's over with, and I was kind of disappointed with that series a little bit, but it's all right. Other than that, not much. I'm listening to you guys. If I get a chance to watch the movie that you guys are gonna talk about, I do. Or if I've already watched it, I just kind of go from memory and do a little a little shout out to you guys. But other than that, thanks for having me. I was so excited to be asked.
Anytime. It'd be great to have you back for another movie or something of your choice further down the pipeline.
We'll have to pick a movie.
Anytime, let me know. And even though when I don't make comments, just know I'm a fan. I do listen to you guys all the time.
Well, we appreciate it. Absolutely.
We definitely appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Well, that brings us to the end of another fun episode. Every once in a while, it's really cool to do something a little bit different, so I'm glad we covered this TV series.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Run, hide or die. Assassin, run, hide, die.